It must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle, than to initiate a new order of things. Machiavelli's words were not meant only for kings and conquerors. They are meant for you standing in the silent war against yourself. Picture this. You wake up, the glow of your phone piercing your eyes, your thumb moving before your mind is awake. Scroll, scroll. A sip of the same bitter coffee, the same road to the same job, where the same conversations with the same people bleed into yesterday. You swear you'll change, yet the days blur into a loop. Different dates, identical patterns. You are not living. You are orbiting a cycle that has captured your throne. The enemy does not wear armor or march with drums. It smiles at you through comfort. It lulls you with predictability. The cycle is invisible, but it binds you as tightly as iron shackles. You tell yourself, it's just a habit, it's just routine. But no, what imprisons you is not a harmless habit, it is a siege. Every repetition fortifies the enemy's camp around your kingdom. Every surrender builds a wall higher around your throne until you no longer rule yourself. You have been dethroned, and the imposter sitting there is the pattern you tolerate. History has shown us this truth. Nations fall not only through enemy invasion, but through decay within. Rome was not toppled in a single day of conquest. It eroded through repeated indulgence, complacency, and the slow poison of cycles left unbroken. Machiavelli understood that power is lost gradually, surrendered piece by piece, to small permissions. That same principle applies to you. Every time you repeat the loop without resistance, you hand the crown to your captor. And here lies the danger. Most never name the enemy. They call it stress, bad luck, or personality. They excuse it. They soften its teeth. But until you give it a name, you cannot raise your sword against it. Call it what it is. The cycle, a predator feeding on your potential. A tyrant that smiles as it bleeds you. The moment you name it, you declare war. Understand the stakes. This is not about productivity hacks or breaking a bad habit for a cleaner calendar. This is about sovereignty, your ability to rule yourself before the world rules you. Imagine a kingdom where the king has no will, where the throne is occupied by a shadow. That is what you are when the cycle governs your days. Without mastery, your future is not yours. It belongs to the loop that repeats itself endlessly, chaining tomorrow to yesterday. This is life or death for the throne of your mind. Break the cycle and reclaim your sovereignty, or kneel as its prisoner until the end of your days. I will not orbit the same path. I will break the cycle. I will reclaim my throne. The one who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy will be destroyed by it. Machiavelli's warning was not only about cities, it was about the mind. Your mind is a throne room, a kingdom of infinite possibility. But if you allow the wrong ruler to sit upon that throne, if you fail to destroy the old tyrant of thought patterns, you will be destroyed by your own cycles. Every cycle begins not with action, but with thought. Thoughts are the courtiers whispering into the king's ear, shaping decrees that echo through the kingdom of your life. A single thought, repeated often enough, becomes law. That law becomes routine, and that routine becomes your fate. This is the crown of thoughts. If your mind crowns fear, doubt, or distraction, those thoughts will rule like tyrants. Psychological studies prove this. Neural pathways grow stronger through repetition. Think a thought once, and it's a soldier. Think it 1,000 times, and it becomes a general commanding an army of behavior. Your cycles are not random. They are coronations of whatever thoughts you've allowed to reign unchecked. But here lies the danger. When vigilance weakens, comfort stages a coup. Comfort is not the loyal servant it pretends to be. It is the usurper. the smiling traitor. It promises rest, ease, and safety, and so you hand it the keys. But once comfort sits on the throne, the banners of your kingdom begin to fall. You stop fighting battles you were born to win. You stop marching into the storms that forge greatness. Think of today's world: endless scrolling, endless streaming, endless consumption. Comfort has conquered millions without lifting a sword. It has stormed the throne rooms of modern minds, turning rulers into captives who believe they are free. The coup of comfort is subtle, but it is devastating, because every time you choose it, you choose surrender. And so the throne of your mind must face rebellion within. Imagine your thoughts as factions, discipline sharpening its blade in the shadows, while the toxic cycle wears the crown. You must rise as a rebel king, overthrow the false ruler, and reclaim your dominion. This is not polite negotiation. This is a civil war inside your own walls. The toxic cycle will not abdicate willingly. It will fight with whispers. Just one more time. Just a little longer. Tomorrow you'll start fresh. Lies meant to keep you bowing before the wrong crown. But rebellion requires fire. You must dethrone the false king and burn the banners of the cycle so it can never return. Understand this: the mind as a throne is not a metaphor to admire. It is a battlefield to command. The king who rules your thoughts rules your destiny. If chaos wears the crown, your life will scatter. If comfort sits in power, your kingdom will rot from within. But if discipline, focus, and ruthless clarity seize the throne, then your life becomes an empire. Command your thoughts or be commanded by them. I rule my mind. I wear the crown. No cycle will dethrone me. Wars begin when you will, but they do not end when you please. Machiavelli's warning echoes through centuries, and it applies to the first moment you open your eyes each day. The war begins not with marching armies, but with the sound of your alarm. That sound is not just a clock, it is the war horn. It summons you to the battlefield of mourning, where your fate for the day is decided. How you respond in those first minutes determines whether you seize command or collapse in retreat. Most people treat the alarm as background noise, a nuisance to silence, so they can crawl back into false safety. But in truth, that hesitation is the first lost skirmish. When you hit snooze, you send a message to your own mind: the enemy is stronger than me. The cycle begins again, and you have already surrendered your throne before you even stood from the bed. Understand this: in war, the side that takes the first move gains momentum. History is littered with proof. At the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal secured one of the greatest tactical victories of all time because he struck with precision before Rome could organize. Napoleon, time and again, used speed at dawn to overwhelm armies twice his size. These leaders understood something you must embody: the one who seizes initiative owns the battlefield. If you let the enemy dictate the first move, you are already playing defense. And in the war of cycles, defense is death. When you wake, your body is weak, your mind fogged, your will unsteady. This is not coincidence. It is the enemy's most cunning strategy. The dawn is when the cycle attacks hardest. Snoozing, scrolling, drifting back into unconsciousness. These are not small indulgences. They are gates left open for the invader to march through. Imagine a fortress whose guards are half asleep at sunrise. Imagine the enemy slipping through unchallenged. That is you when you hesitate. The cycle does not need to overpower you if you hand it the keys. So you must reverse the pattern. The alarm is not a suggestion. It is the trumpet of war. Rise at once. Plant your feet on the floor, as if stepping into formation. Claim the first victory before the day has a chance to test you. When your eyes open, you either move as a general ready to strike, or you drift as a prisoner chained to yesterday. Do not let weakness at dawn dictate your fate. Do not let hesitation become a habit. Do not allow the enemy at the gate to become the ruler within your walls. Your mornings are not neutral. They are battlefields soaked in the blood of your future victories or defeats. Decide who commands them. I rise at the war horn. I take the first move. I won in the morning. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. Machiavelli understood that victory is not always found in constant motion, but in the mastery of when to stop. The greatest generals in history knew the value of a pause. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by war and burdened by the weight of an empire, wrote to himself in his meditations that stillness of mind was his shield. Amid chaos, he carved silence within himself to see clearly that was not a weakness, that was a weapon. You must understand this. Toxic cycles thrive on noise. They want you distracted, restless, and constantly moving without direction. They want your attention fragmented into 1,000 meaningless pieces, so you never gather the strength to strike back. In war, supply lines are everything. An army with endless soldiers, but no food, collapses. A cycle is no different. Its supply line is your constant engagement with distraction. Every time you fill silence with scrolling, every time you escape discomfort with noise, you are feeding the enemy. Modern life is designed as a digital siege. Your phone is a battlefield of endless horns and signals. Each notification is a scout slipping into your fortress, pulling your eyes, fragmenting your focus. The cycle knows that if it keeps you occupied, if it denies you silence, you will never hear your own orders, and so you live under siege without realizing it. You believe you are free, yet you respond like a servant to every vibration, every alert, every headline screaming for your attention. This is not harmless. This is the chain around your neck, disguised as convenience. To weaponize stillness is to cut the supply lines. It is to step back and starve the enemy of the energy it feeds on. Imagine yourself as a general on a hilltop, surveying the battlefield. You do not rush with the soldiers into every skirmish. You pause, you breathe, you see the whole war before making your move. That pause is not surrender. That pause is command. When you choose stillness, you sharpen your sword. You reclaim the throne from the noise. But here is where most fail. They confuse calm with passivity. Stillness is not folding your arms and doing nothing. Stillness is a blade, honed to cut precisely where the enemy is weakest. When a predator stalks, it does not thrash or scream. It waits, coiled, silent, until the strike is inevitable. That silence is lethal. Your stillness must be the same. Do not fear the quiet. It is your weapon. Use it to think strategically. Use it to see patterns you missed when you were drowning in motion. Use it to plan the decisive strike that ends the cycle once and for all. Your enemy thrives on your restlessness. Deny it. Take silence and turn it into steel. Be the general who pauses, not the soldier who panics. Be the predator in the tall grass, not the prey scattering in noise. I weaponize stillness. Silence is my sword. I'm starving. He who is the cause of another becoming powerful is ruined. Machiavelli's warning cuts straight into the heart of your struggle. Toxic cycles are not destroyed by delay, excuses, or half measures. They are destroyed only when you strip them of power, ruthlessly, completely, without hesitation. Cycles survive because you tolerate them. You tell yourself, it's not that bad, just this once. Tomorrow I'll stop. Those words are not harmless. They are the enemy's supply lines. A toxic pattern does not require grand decisions to stay alive. It feeds on small permissions, the late-night snack that becomes a habit. The just 5 more minutes on your phone turns into an hour. The toxic person you let back in because you don't want conflict. Each act is a shipment of weapons smuggled to your enemy. If you wish to conquer the cycle, you must cut off these supplies. No leaks, no exceptions. A fortress falls when its food and water are gone. Your cycle will collapse when you starve it. History proves this law. Machiavelli himself advised rulers to strike decisively, not partially. He wrote that injuries must be inflicted at one stroke, so they cannot be avenged. Look at Cesare Borgia, who secured power in Italy by eliminating rivals swiftly and entirely. He did not give them room to recover. He understood that mercy in the wrong place was suicide. Contrast this with rulers who hesitated, who left enemies alive in hope of compromise. Their reigns ended in betrayal. Their empires swallowed because they could not act ruthlessly when the moment demanded it. The same truth applies to you. If you strike halfway, the cycle will return, stronger, hungrier, vengeful. Do not fool yourself into thinking compromise is kindness. Mercy to the enemy is cruelty to yourself. Imagine a general who captures traitors but lets them live inside his camp. How long before they rise again at night and slit his throat? That is what you do when you cut back on a toxic pattern but refuse to eliminate it. You think you are in control, but the moment your guard drops, the old loop reclaims the throne. Half measures are not victories, they are disguised defeats. This is why you must be ruthless. Rip the cycle out at its roots. If social media consumes your time, delete the apps, not just the notifications. If a relationship poisons your spirit, sever it, not just take a break. If a habit is destroying your health, kill it outright, not reduce it. Do not negotiate with an enemy sworn to your destruction. The cost of hesitation is your life. The reward of ruthless elimination is freedom. Every toxic cycle you destroy clears the battlefield for your true self to rise. Yes, it will feel brutal. Yes, it will sting, but understand this. You are not killing comfort. You are killing the imposter sitting on your throne. Be merciless. Cut the supply lines, strike at one blow, burn the bridges the enemy could use to return. I eliminate without mercy. Compromise is defeat. I rule my kingdom. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Machiavelli understood that authority is not given, it is taken. Power does not come from a crown of gold or a badge on the chest. It comes from perception. And perception begins with the mask you wear. Your life is a kingdom, and you are its commander. But cycles strip you of authority. They whisper to you that you are a servant, a prisoner, a victim of your own habits. If you let that belief take root, the enemy has already won. This is why you must wear the mask of command, not as a costume, not as a lie, but as a weapon. A mask that projects authority before authority has even solidified inside you. History proves the power of this mask. Roman generals marched before their soldiers not always with certainty, but always with command. Julius Caesar, when crossing the Rubicon, did not know if Rome would bow or if he would be destroyed. Yet he carried himself as if destiny was already his. His soldiers followed not because they knew the outcome, but because they saw the mask of authority he never removed. Authority is often an illusion that becomes reality the moment others believe it. Cycles break when you project command over them, when you look at your habits, not as a victim begging for change, but as a general issuing orders that must be obeyed. But here is the enemy's greatest trick: self-deception. The toxic cycle whispers that you are weak, that your commands have no weight, that your words to yourself are empty. It tells you the mask is fake, and if you believe it, you retreat, you crumble, you give the throne back to the cycle. Look at the modern world, how many people sabotage themselves by saying, "That's just who I am." I can't change. I'm not disciplined. They wear a mask too, but it is the mask of weakness, and they bow beneath it. You must silence that voice by choosing a different mask. Stand taller than you feel. Speak commands sharper than you believe. Act as though the cycle already fears you, and soon it will. Even in the stage of war, generals often acted before belief caught up to them. They projected strength, not because they always felt strong, but because appearing strong was strength. Picture a commander rallying his army before battle. His knees may tremble under the armor, but his soldiers never see it. They see only the mask, the voice of certainty, the posture of command. That mask keeps the army in formation and the enemy in doubt. You must do the same. When you feel the pull of the cycle, put on the mask. Command yourself. Do not ask. Do not negotiate. Appear strong until the strength becomes real. Understand this. The mask is not deception. It is discipline. It is the bridge between who you are and who you must become. Without it, you remain the victim who obeys. With it, you rise as the commander who decides. I wear the mask of command. I do not obey the cycle. I command it to end. It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver. Machiavelli's words reveal the hidden weapon you must cultivate. The part of you that does not negotiate, does not hesitate, and does not show mercy. This is your inner assassin, not the clumsy fighter who swings wildly at every enemy, but the silent blade that ends excuses before they even speak. Inside you live a darker figure, a shadow you often try to deny. Jungian psychology called it the shadow, the repressed, disowned parts of yourself that carry both your weakness and your untapped strength. Most people bury it, afraid of what it might reveal, but those who learn to integrate it, to channel it, discover lethal focus. Your shadow becomes your assassin. It strikes with precision where your conscious self falters. It does not wait for motivation. It does not argue with fear. It executes the mission without emotion. The assassin within is not your enemy. It is the weapon you have neglected to train. Modern life gives you endless opportunities for excuses. You hesitate before sending the message. You stall before starting the work. You tell yourself you're not ready, that tomorrow will be better. But excuses are parasites. They live only in hesitation. The moment you pause, they multiply. The assassin's role is simple. Eliminate hesitation instantly. It does not think. It does not bargain. It acts. When the alarm sounds, the assassin rises. When the opportunity appears, the assassin seizes it before doubt arrives. In a world drowning in delay, the one who acts without hesitation already holds the crown. But understand this, the assassin must kill more than excuses. It must kill the old version of you that feeds the cycle. Every toxic pattern survives because you keep protecting the weaker self who built it. That self is familiar, comfortable, even endearing, but it is also a traitor. Imagine walking into a throne room where the false king sits smiling on your throne. Would you reason with him? No. You would draw the blade and end the imposter. Symbolically, you must do the same. The assassin must cut ties with the old self, end the cycle's reign, and leave nobody behind to resurrect. This is not cruelty, it is rebirth. Every great transformation is preceded by death. The death of illusions, the death of weakness, the death of yesterday's self. If you want to rise as ruler, you must let the assassin within do what you have feared to do, end what no longer serves you. Train this assassin. Call on it in moments of hesitation. Send it after the excuses before they spread. Let it strike down the false king within you, because only when the old self dies can the sovereign self ascend. My assassin strikes without mercy. Excuses die, hesitation falls, and the old self is no more. Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. Machiavelli understood that all power, whether over nations or over yourself, is fed by impulse. And in you, two forces battle for the throne. Picture them as wolves. One is weak, gluttonous, addicted to comfort and repetition. The other is strong, disciplined, forged in fire and hunger. Every choice you make is food. Every action you take decides which wolf grows and which withers. Psychology has proven this truth. Neural pathways are like trails through a forest. The more you walk a path, the clearer it becomes. The more you feed a thought or a habit, the stronger it grows, until it becomes instinct. Feed distraction daily, and the weak wolf rules with ease. Feed discipline, and the strong wolf sharpens its teeth. Ready to hunt. You cannot starve both. One will rise, the other will fall. The war inside your mind is not about eliminating the wolves. It is about choosing which one you crown with your attention. Look at the world around you. Modern life is designed as a banquet for the weak wolf. Junk food dripping with sugar. Designed not to nourish, but to addict. Social media feeds engineered to hijack your dopamine, keeping you scrolling, endlessly feeding the glutton within. Gossip, mindless entertainment, cheap pleasures, all of it is bait. And when you take it, you are not simply indulging, you are feeding a predator that grows stronger with every bite. Most people never question this. They let the weak wolf gorge itself, and then they wonder why discipline seems impossible. They are not powerless, they are starving the strong wolf, while keeping the weak one fat and satisfied. But here is the truth. You are never starving. You are always feeding one of them. The question is not whether you eat, but what you serve. Imagine this battlefield: on one side, the weak wolf lapping up fast pleasures. On the other, the strong wolf waiting for you to give it meat. Every action is a feast. A workout is food for strength. Reading sharpens the wolf's eyes. Work done with focus is blood on its tongue. When you rise early, resist temptation, and march into discomfort, you are feeding the predator that will defend your throne. The cycle wants you to believe you are trapped, that your hunger forces you to obey. But hunger is not chains, it is a choice. You control the feast, you decide who eats, and the wolf you feed today will hunt for you tomorrow or devour you. So stop pretending you are neutral. Stop claiming you are powerless. You are feeding one of them every hour. Choose wisely. Feed the strong wolf, and it will tear the cycle to pieces. I feed discipline. I starve weakness. My wolf is strong. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Machiavelli's words are the very essence of strategy. Life itself is a chessboard, and you are both the king and the player. The toxic cycles you repeat are not random. They are pawns shuffling across the board in the same tired formation, predictable, obvious, and easy to exploit by any opponent who can see the pattern. Think about your days. The morning scroll, the same excuses, the same arguments, the same surrender to comfort. Each action is a pawn repeating yesterday's move. Your life becomes mechanical, a pattern so predictable the enemy doesn't even have to study you. It already knows what you will do. Just as in chess, a player who makes the same moves over and over loses not by lack of power, but by lack of imagination. Cycles strip you of unpredictability, and predictability is death on the battlefield. History makes this brutally clear. Napoleon Bonaparte won battle after battle, not because he always had the strongest army, but because he anticipated predictable enemies. He studied patterns, how generals marched, how they deployed, how they hesitated, and then he struck from angles no one expected. At Austerlitz, he deliberately appeared weak, luring the coalition armies into a trap before destroying them in one masterstroke. He understood that victory does not belong to the one who repeats the same tired script. It belongs to the one who sees the whole board. You must become the Napoleon of your own life, studying the predictable cycles that enslave you, anticipating their next move, and striking with ruthless creativity. Now imagine the cycle as an opponent across the board. It expects you to reach for your phone the moment you wake. It expects you to avoid discomfort, to choose comfort food, to delay the work. It has played against you so many times it knows your openings by heart. But the moment you make a move, it is not expected. Rising at the alarm without hesitation, choosing stillness instead of distraction, acting instead of delaying, you flip the game. The cycle stumbles, the board shifts, and for the first time you are no longer a predictable pawn, but the strategist dictating the match. Checkmate is not delivered in one stroke. It is the accumulation of disciplined, intelligent moves that trap the enemy until it cannot escape. Breaking a cycle works the same way. Each unexpected action is a piece moved with precision, cutting off the enemy's options until it has nowhere left to run. You do not simply resist the cycle, you corner it, outthink it, and end it. You must stop being the pawn repeating yesterday's mistake. Become the player who sees 10 moves ahead. Study your patterns, anticipate your weaknesses, and then move where the enemy never expects. That is how you break the loop. That is how you win the chessboard of life. I am not a pawn. I see the whole board. I checkmate the cycle. Men rise from one ambition to another. First, they seek to secure themselves against attack, and then they attack others. Machiavelli's warning is as true for empires as it is for your mind. You cannot defend your throne with fragile willpower. You must forge it into iron, and iron is not born in silence. It is beaten in fire, hammered by ritual, shaped by persistence until it cannot bend to the enemy's pressure. Your will is like raw metal, soft at first, shapeless, easily marked by the blows of distraction and comfort. But psychology proves what the ancients already knew. Repetition reshapes the mind. Neuroplasticity shows that deliberate, consistent action rewires your brain's pathways, turning weakness into instinctive strength. A ritual is not superstition, it is science. Every time you repeat an act of discipline, you carve a new groove into your mind, reinforcing the path until it becomes the natural road. Without ritual, your will remains brittle. With it, your will becomes iron. Look at the modern world, and you will see men and women who have built temples of ritual to harden themselves. The gym is not just a place of exercise, it is a battlefield shrine where iron will is forged with every rep. The journal is not just paper, it is a war map where you strategize and confront your own mind. Even the cold shower, brutal and shocking, is a ritual of conquest, proving that you can endure discomfort and command your body to obey. These are not random habits. They are sacred shrines of war where the ritual beats weakness out of you one strike at a time. But I do not think a single strike is enough. The blacksmith does not hammer once and call the blade complete. He strikes again and again, relentless, each blow bending the metal closer to its true form. Your will demands the same. A ritual is not done once, it is done endlessly, until what was once effort becomes essence. Imagine the forge, sparks flying, hammer crashing, the heat unrelenting. That is what you must endure to turn soft will into steel command. The moment you stop striking, the metal cools and weakness creeps back in. Do not treat rituals as chores. Treat them as weapons. Each repetition sharpens your sword. Each deliberate act strengthens your armor. Each persistent blow ensures that when the cycle comes to reclaim its throne, it finds you unbreakable. Your will must be forged in the fire of repetition, tempered in the temples of discipline, and hardened by the hammer of persistence. That is how you break the cycle, not once, but forever. My will is iron, my rituals are the forge. I do not bend. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Machiavelli's insight slices deeper than any blade. Victory over others means nothing if you are still chained within. To conquer yourself is to reach a point where the old cycles no longer tempt you, where the enemy claws at your gates but finds nothing to hold on to. This is becoming untouchable. The Stoics understood this state with ruthless clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's true power is his ability to remain unshaken by what happens around him. Epictetus taught that freedom belongs only to those who master their own desires, who cannot be enslaved by anger, fear, or pleasure. To them, the highest throne was not over empires, but over the self. And history proved their wisdom. Rome's borders shifted, kingdoms rose and fell, but the Stoic who stood in detachment could not be conquered, because no external force could sway his will. To become untouchable is to adopt that same iron discipline. When your freedom no longer depends on circumstance, you have achieved sovereignty. Now look at the modern battlefield. Toxic relationships that demand your energy, gossip that tries to pull you into petty wars, addictions engineered to hijack your mind. Most people spend their lives bleeding out to these forces. Unable to resist, they are swayed by every rumor, shattered by every insult, enslaved by every craving. But when your will is fortified, you stand apart. Their chaos cannot infect your order. Their drama cannot touch your clarity. Imagine walking through fire and not being burned. Because you have built yourself into stone, detachment is not apathy. It is armor. It means you choose what enters your mind and what does not. The cycle loses all power when it cannot even reach your throne. And finally, understand this. Becoming untouchable is not escape. It is ascension. You are not running from the cycles of old. You are rising above them. Picture a king seated on a high throne. The peasants below scream, fight, and claw at each other, but none of it reaches him. That is you. Once you master this state, the temptations, the noise, the distractions, they still exist, but they cannot touch you. You have ascended to a higher ground where their reach ends. This is not retreat, it is elevation. Becoming untouchable is the final form of mastery. It is no longer about fighting the cycle, because the cycle can no longer touch you. You have broken the loop, burned the bridges, and risen above the battlefield to a throne that cannot be shaken. I am untouchable. No cycle can reach me. I rise above the battlefield. Fortune is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by force. Machiavelli's words are not about romance, they are about domination, about refusing to bow to the chaos of life and instead bending it to your will. This is the final form, the moment where all weapons, all battles, all lessons converge, where you are no longer the prisoner of toxic cycles, but their executioner. Think of what you have built until now. The mind reclaimed as your throne. The mornings where you rise at the war horn instead of falling back into chains. The silence you've sharpened into a blade. The ruthless elimination of weaknesses you once excused. The mask of command you wear until it fuses with your face. The inner assassin who kills hesitation before it breathes. The wolf of discipline you fed until it towers over its rival. The chessboard you now see in full 10 moves ahead. The iron will be forged in the temples of ritual. And finally, the state of being untouchable, where cycles cannot even tempt you anymore. Each principle was a soldier, each discipline a weapon. Now they gather into one army, under one banner, your sovereignty. History remembers not the passive, but those who shattered cycles and rewrote destiny. Look at Alexander the Great. Before him, Greece was fractured into city-states. Trapped in endless wars, he unified them, broke the cycle of division, and carved an empire that stretched to the edges of the known world. Look at Abraham Lincoln, born into poverty, chained by the cycles of his environment, yet he broke through and led a nation through its bloodiest war, tearing down the institution of slavery. Or Nelson Mandela, who endured decades in prison, yet broke the generational cycle of apartheid by refusing to bow, rising instead as the architect of a new South Africa. These were not men who accepted the loop. They were men who mastered themselves first and then reshaped history itself. Their example proves a truth you cannot escape. When you break the cycle within, you gain the power to break the cycles around you. Now imagine yourself not as you are, but as the archetype you could become, the sovereign of your own life. No longer reactive, no longer spinning in loops, dictated by comfort or fear, but sculpting every day with deliberate precision. You become mythic, not in storybooks, but in the way others see you. They look at you and sense the weight of discipline, the clarity of vision, the unshakable presence of someone who commands themselves. You become the one who bends time instead of wasting it, who bends fortune instead of begging from it. Your very existence becomes a throne others cannot ignore. This is the transformation, the final form. You are no longer at war with cycles, because you have slain them, starved them, and stripped them of power. You are no longer prey to hesitation, distraction, or temptation. You are the predator now, the general now, the sovereign now. Every move you make echoes with intent. Every day you live becomes a declaration of rule. Understand the stakes. If you refuse this transformation, the cycle will reclaim you. It will creep back, disguised as comfort, disguised as habit, disguised as tomorrow. If you break here, all your progress is undone. The enemy waits for the slightest opening. But if you hold the line, if you integrate every weapon you've forged, then you ascend to a throne that cannot be shaken. This is your coronation. The moment when you stop being a captive of your own patterns and rise as their executioner. The moment where you carve your personal myth in stone, a story not of weakness repeated, but of power reclaimed. Say it aloud and mean it. I am the master of the cycle. I do not repeat. I command. I am sovereign. It is not by sitting still that one becomes great. Machiavelli's voice cuts across time to meet you here. The cycle will whisper that you've done enough, that reflection is progress, that thinking about change is the same as seizing it. But this is the final deception. Victory does not come from endless analysis. Victory comes from command, from rising, from acting. Understand this, there is no neutral ground in the war for your mind. Every day you either rise or you fall. When you hesitate, the cycle wins. When you delay, the enemy grows stronger. You cannot hover in the middle, telling yourself you will try tomorrow. Hesitation is defeat disguised as patience. The throne does not wait. It is taken by whoever dares to claim it. And do not think the war ends here. Cycles are patient. They wait in the shadows, watching for your guard to drop. Like defeated armies gathering strength, they linger, ready to strike the moment you grow comfortable. History has shown it again and again. Empires fall not because of one decisive blow, but because vigilance weakens. Rome did not collapse in a single night. It decayed slowly, its discipline corroded, its strength forgotten. So it will be with you if you do not remain ruthless. This is eternal war. The enemy will never retire, which means you must never stop fighting. But here is your power. You are not the victim anymore. You are not the captive circling the same loop. You are the sovereign, the breaker of cycles, the executioner of hesitation. When you rise tomorrow, you rise as ruler. When you face temptation, you face it with the crown of command. You sit on the throne of your mind, and nothing sits there without your permission. This is the command to rise. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Take your place. Declare it aloud so your own mind cannot forget. I am the breaker of cycles. I sit upon the throne of my mind.